Good afternoon. My name is Patty Perillo, and I have the privilege and honor to serve as the host of this Veterans Day service. I serve as the Vice President for Student Affairs here at the University of Maryland. At this time, I request that you stand as you are able for the presentation of the colors by the Maryland Guard and remain standing for the singing of your grand old flag by the student musical organization Fronde Muzak. Thank you.
Colors. Colors turn. Arch. Present. Harms. Right shoulder. Harms. Post. 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 Colors. Colors turn. Arch.
certainly deserved a round of applause. Beautiful. Thank you. Please continue standing as we enthusiastically welcome students from the College Park Academy. Kindly join them in the Pledge of Allegiance. Students, please begin. Thank you, students, for leading us in our nation's pledge. Thank you to the Honor Guard, College Park Academy students, and to Fronde Muzak. Students, please return to your seat. Everyone else, please be seated for the invocation. The invocation will be offered by Junior Risu Wagner from the Maryland Hillel Center for Jewish Life. Risa.
As we stand here today, I'd like to thank all of our veterans for the service they have performed for our country. We would not be here safe and sound without them. I would like to read the Misha Berach, a Jewish prayer used to request a blessing from God for strength and for healing. I will read it in Hebrew and in English. Misha Berach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzhak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu Yavarech et kol elu shalachanu b'yad artzenu, artzot chabrit, bechol zman va'et, bechol makom, barech et kol kayachlenu, sheyitzchu bechol ma'aseh, yirahem l'tova, l'chazakim u l'kachaytotam. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, sheti artzenu bracha lechol yoshvei tevel, v'tishra b'neinu re'ut v'cheirut, v'chaklihenu shalom v'emet, l'kayem ma shekutav al yad neviecha, lo yisagoy el goy karev, lo yimadu od milchama, v'nomar amen. May he who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless all those who have fought in the military on behalf of our country, in the United States of America, in every time and era and every place. Bless all of our soldiers that they should be successful for good in all of their endeavors. Strengthen them and invigorate them. May it be your will, Adonai our God and God of our ancestors, that our land should be a blessing to all the inhabitants of the world. Immerse us in friendship and freedom, and foster among us true peace, that we might bring about the words written by the hand of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and mankind shall not again know war. And let us say, Amen.
And let us say, Amen. Thank you, Risa. We will now listen to a video message from University President Dr. Darrell J. Pines, who regrets that he cannot join us today because of important university business. Throughout his career at UMD, first as a professor and then as a dean in the School of Engineering, Dr. Pines has advocated for and mentored student veterans finding their way through the University of Maryland and onto careers related to their studies. And now, as university president, he continues to champion the splendid contributions of our veterans across campus and the work of campus units that serve veterans. Let us listen to this message now.
I am delighted to speak with you today as we gather at the University of Maryland to express our profound gratitude to our community of veterans and current military members. As you entered Memorial Chapel, you passed a plaque stating that 70 years ago, in 1952, this sacred space was dedicated to the University of Maryland men and women who gave their lives in the service of their country. Since then, this building has become a central part of our campus as an architectural icon and as an interdenominational place where our campus community gathers to mourn and celebrate, and it remains a place to remember our veterans. In fact, this year marks the 15th anniversary of our Veterans Day service at the chapel, and it is a privilege to continue this tradition of honoring those who have served. Today, we gather to recognize University of Maryland veterans who are current students, staff, and alumni, and remember the UMD veterans who are no longer with us. The values of resilience, solidarity, loyalty, and integrity our veterans embody ripple throughout our community, enriching us all. During our Veterans Day program, we will have the privilege of hearing from two remarkable individuals, a staff member and a student, both of whom are Terrapin veterans. Their stories will shed light on how their military service has profoundly influenced the choices and decisions they make today. As we reflect on the sacrifices, the service, and the dedication of our veterans, let us remember that we are here to serve them. It is our duty to show our deep appreciation for the magnificent service that they have given and continue to give on behalf of our country. Thank you for joining us in this special commemoration of our veterans and for celebrating their enduring legacy. Together, we stand as a community, united in our respect and gratitude for those who have given so much.
As Dr. Pine has indicated, today we are celebrating and remembering the University of Maryland veteran community. We extend our gratitude to Maryland veterans who have returned from service and the active duty military serving at the present time. We hold in our hearts the names of dedicated and courageous University of Maryland veterans who have passed away, some of them in the line of duty. The University of Maryland is well known today for its support of student veterans. In a U.S. News and World Report, UMD is ranked 36th out of about 4,000 colleges in the 2024 list of best colleges for veterans. Let us give a round of applause for the service of Maryland veterans over time and for our university's ongoing strong commitment to veterans. Ever since its beginning 71 years ago, this Memorial Chapel has served as a place where veteran achievements are recognized. It's not the only place on campus, but it certainly is an iconic place. Today's event, as President Pine says, marks the 15th university celebration of veterans, with many programs that are taking place throughout this month to bring together veterans and raise campus awareness of veteran contributions. Our service this afternoon consists of honoring and remembering veterans. We will begin honoring the veteran service experience through the personal reflections of two members of the Maryland veteran community. I am delighted to introduce our first speaker, Elizabeth, who also goes by Becky, Elizabeth Patterson, who's representing veterans who are Maryland students. Becky Patterson is a United States Navy veteran who deployed to the Persian Gulf in support of the global war on terrorism. Returning stateside, she worked in the veteran advocacy space for several years, where she focused on health impacts of military-related chemical contamination. She plans to explore the research further as she pursues her PhD as a Tillman Military Scholar at UMD's Maryland Institute for Applied Environmental Health. Becky holds a Master of Public Health and Environmental Health Sciences from the University of Maryland and a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Let us welcome Becky to hear her story.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. So my most meaningful professional achievement so far was also my scariest. So I was standing in front of a room in the Capitol Visitor Center in Washington, D.C., where all eyes were focused on me, kind of like today. I'm an introvert, and I've always preferred to be a voice, a quiet member in the crowd, as opposed to the center of attention. But for an entire hour on that day, I educated congressional staffers and other advocates on an environmental health issue that negatively affects service members and veterans, as well as their families and their neighbors. On that day, I was able to overcome my fear and advocate for my community. 15 years earlier, I had joined the military to take control of my life after several adverse childhood experiences. I had realized that I needed a big change if I wanted to escape the influences that had weighed so heavily on my life to that point. So by joining the military, I was firmly on my own for the first time, and I loved it. My self-confidence grew as I worked with and served with people from a wide range of backgrounds and perspectives. And by the time I separated from the military 6 years later, I had discovered the person that I wanted to be. So when I separated, I returned to Wisconsin to earn my Bachelor of Science in Chemistry at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Now, like many veterans, I was a non-traditional student on a pretty traditionally aged campus, and so I spent most of my time in the Military and Veterans Resource Center with other student veterans. So we'd share stories of our military service, and it was through these conversations that I first learned of the use of burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan to dispose of military waste. So acrid black smoke from these open pits that were often burning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that contained all kinds of chemicals from what was being burned, would frequently blow over living areas where service members were then inhaling this smoke all the time. And although I had deployed to the Middle East myself, I had been on a ship and I was unaware of many of the environmental and occupational exposures that were present in other deployment locations. And through further research while I was pursuing my bachelor's in chemistry, I learned that incinerators weren't installed as had been planned because of budget issues. And so we were further risking the health of our service members who were already risking their lives in dangerous parts of the country and had no choice in their place of duty. You know, we go where we're told, when we're told, because of budget issues. And I was so angry about that. And that experience altered my trajectory and set me on the path that I continue today. So I moved to the DC area and I earned my Master of Public Health in Environmental Health Sciences at the University of Maryland. It's the first time I was here. And then I found a job in the nonprofit veteran service organization space with Vietnam Veterans of America. And unfortunately, I learned that service members are often exposed to biological, chemical, and physical agents when they serve, which can cause debilitating health effects long after the exposures occurred. And this can be years or decades later, often after the service member is separated from the military. Now, when I separated from the Navy, I was incredibly lucky to have an amazing advocate who helped me apply for disability benefits through the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I didn't realize it then, but I certainly recognized it when I was at Vietnam Veterans of America, how the support of an effective advocate at that time that I was separating from the military had been so incredibly significant for everything that I've been able to accomplish since. And this is because, thanks to his assistance, I receive health care and disability compensation for the health effects of my military service. And this access has allowed me freedoms in other areas of my life that I wouldn't have otherwise, just having that basic access to health care and to disability compensation. And unfortunately, too many of my fellow veterans are still waiting for the same access for conditions that are a result of their military service. And so while at VVA, one of the things I did was educate veterans, healthcare providers, policymakers, and other stakeholders on the potential health impacts of military, environmental, and occupational exposures in an effort to help other veterans receive the health care and disability compensation that they deserve. Now, of course, increases in healthcare access and disability compensation and cleaning up contamination events require money. And too often, what I was hearing from people who didn't want to spend this money was that there just wasn't enough research, we don't have enough information, it's out of our hands, we can't do anything about it. In my opinion, a whole lot of excuses to not take care of service members and their families and cleaning up the contamination. And so this is one of the things that motivated me to return to UMD for my PhD. So my current focus area is military-related chemical contamination of water supplies. However, my long-term goal is to open a center that's focused on military-related exposures and related health effects with an emphasis on research, education, and advocacy. My time in the military introduced me to people with perspectives and experiences much different from my own, and so I really recognized the immense importance of a diversity of voices when solving complex problems. So I hope to use the knowledge that I've gained and relationships that I've built to shape my research questions in an effort to conduct relevant and applicable research for the military-affiliated community. And I'll say it's definitely an experience being back in school again at my age, but I do think that my experiences with the military-affiliated community will make me a better scientist. And when I came back to UMD, I knew what I wanted to do and I knew why I wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure how I'd be able to do it. Because often in military spaces, I was the only or one of a very few people with a science or health background, and then in science and health spaces, I was often the only veteran. And so I wasn't entirely sure how I'd find the support to do the things that I wanted to do. And that changed earlier this year when I was honored to become a Tillman Scholar. And the Pat Tillman Foundation invites Tillman Scholars into a lifelong community of peers and mentors who are dedicated to service beyond self as we carry on Pat Tillman's legacy. And the support of this community, combined with all the other areas of support I have, including the support from the University of Maryland, will help me get where I want to be. So for the student veterans in the audience, the application for the 2024 class of Tillman Scholars is currently open and it closes on February 1st. And I look forward to welcoming the next class of Tillman Scholars into our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, for sharing your reflections. You are an inspiring woman, servant leader, scientist. Thank you for using your own lived experience to make an impact in the veteran community. We're grateful for you. To continue our efforts to honor veterans, members of the Mighty Sound of Maryland will come to the stage to play an Armed Services Medley. I ask that all veterans and current military stand to be recognized when their branch's theme is played. Family and friends are encouraged to honor the veterans in their lives by standing during the appropriate song. Thank you, thank you, thank you, mighty sound of Maryland. We appreciate your being here today to offer such a celebratory salute to our veterans and their families. I don't know about you all, but when I hear that music, I feel it here and here. It is just extraordinary. Our second speaker this afternoon is Frank Gertner, representing our UMD veterans staff. Frank is a retired U.S. naval aviator and foreign area officer. Currently, he serves as the Director of Federal and Veteran Affairs and Director of Technology Management Graduate Programs at UMD's Robert H. Smith School of Business. Frank believes the business of national security is everybody's business, and that's why he founded Maryland's Initiative for Veteran Lifelong Leadership and is proud to lead Smith's Future of Government Management Initiative. Frank enjoys educating, researching, and writing on public-private innovation and civil-military affairs in today's America. He is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and offers a Master's in International Relations and an MBA from the University of Maryland. Let us welcome Frank to the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Perillo, and thank you also. That was actually the first time I've heard the medley with the Space Force anthem. That's pretty cool. And thank you, Becky, for telling us about your service. Thanks to you, they get a double dose of Navy, so this is great. It's really an incredible honor for me to stand here and speak at this event, especially when I think about who has been here in years past, and I consider how many other incredible TERP vets we have with truly, truly remarkable stories. I know a bit of my own story was just introduced by Dr. Perillo. What makes me a veteran is my 25 years in the Navy from 1993 to 2018. What makes me a TERP are my 2 degrees earned here in College Park on each end of that service. First, commuting from the Naval Academy in Annapolis to study government and politics in BSAS, go BSAS, on a Navy graduate education scholarship. And the second, using my GI Bill and spending my weekends in Van Munching Hall to earn an executive MBA from the Smith School as I was preparing for my military transition. And in between, I had more fun than I should have, flying helicopters, leading sailors, supporting diplomacy, and crafting future force design. I got to travel the world, I got to work with NATO and the UN, and I got to play some part in every major U.S. military operation from Kosovo in the 1990s to Syria in the 2010s. And that all may sound impressive, but I want to be honest, I was not called on for anywhere near the level of courage or heroism as many, many vets before me, around me, or I'm sure here today. And if you're one, I thank you. And I hope that we'll get to hear your story today or this month as well. But in any case, I'm proud of my service. And the mission I was given for today was to reflect on key moments in it, what in the military we'd call lessons learned, and connect their impact on my work here now, directing Federal and Veteran Affairs for our business school. And believe me, I had a lot of lessons learned in the Navy. But what's interesting is that when I reflect on my decades in uniform, the moments that really shaped me, the ones I still think about almost every day, didn't come in a cockpit or deployed to any of the military operations that are listed in my awards. They came in what could have been routine encounters with current and future vets, but what became instead unforgettable examples of veteran leadership. The first lesson learned that comes to mind was in a short exchange I had when I was a junior officer in my first combat support helicopter squadron. It was with the squadron executive officer, or second in command. I don't remember exactly what prompted it, but it had something to do with him reviewing a request I had for resources from a budget that he managed scrupulously. I made my case, and he grilled me with a few rounds of questions until he held up his hand, he looked me in the eye with a smile, and he said, "Approve. I just wanted to make sure you had your story straight. Just remember, we already get more than we deserve. Use it well." Just a few weeks later, that XO was killed when a helicopter both he and I had flown countless times caught fire and lost control. Those were actually the last words we shared. That was the last time I heard his voice. But to this day, it's his voice and those words that I think of every time I think I need more to do more. And they're the words I've quoted to more than one vet I've met stuck in transition, thinking more about what they don't have than what they do. Maybe not always, but more often than not, we already get more than we deserve. What really matters is that we have our story straight and we use it well. The second lesson learned that comes to mind came not on duty, but after hours. I was now a mid-grade officer working at the Navy's Personnel Command when my dad, a World War II vet and Terp himself, started to suffer dementia. After the war, he used the original GI Bill, enjoyed almost 5 decades as a research physicist, and had a good run in very active retirement. But then, getting older started to get harder. He lost his clarity, then his balance. A stroke took half his vision, then another took the rest. It was not easy for him to lose the health, the confidence, and the sense of purpose that every vet values. And that led to some dark places, some disturbing discussions. At first, I didn't really get why I, his youngest and furthest child, was who he chose to share these with, and ultimately asked to serve as his medical power of attorney. But with time, I came to understand I was also the only other veteran in the family. I think that meant something to him. Maybe, as important, I think he knew it meant something to me. It meant I still needed him. I learned as much from my father in the 5 years that followed than in the 40 younger years before. I learned what aging with dignity looks like. I saw the inspiration a strong spirit, even in a weak body, can give to caregivers, to grandchildren, even to strangers. I learned that a veteran can lead until literally the last day of their life. So my final lesson learned came from a very senior officer I came to admire towards the end of my career. I spent more years in the Pentagon than honestly I care to admit. But during 2 of them, I was fortunate to serve and occasionally travel with General Martin Dempsey when he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And I'll never forget my first chance to brief him. We were overseas. He had just come from a visit to Afghanistan and was dealing with some really harsh press over decisions related to conflict in Syria. I knew I only had a few minutes, and I had a full book of material to walk him through ahead of 2 days of meetings with very senior foreign counterparts. So I took my seat, I sat up straight, and I started with what I thought was most important, our top 3 national objectives. But before I even finished number 1, he waved his hand, and he said, "Stop, stop, stop. Let's start again. Do you have kids? How old? Did you get them something to take home?" That was the first of many more briefings and meetings I had with General Dempsey, and in every single one, the priorities never changed. For him, it was all and always about caring for the next generation. So those are my top 3 lessons learned. Honestly, over a beer, I could probably find 10 or 50 more. But those are the ones I think about most in my work here in College Park, because each of these experiences gave me a glimpse of something I've come to believe is what really makes our community special: our pursuit as veterans of lifelong leadership. And after coming here and learning that I'm not alone, They are why I launched the Initiative for Veteran Lifelong Leadership at Smith. The initiative is our way to promote an understanding that veterans aren't just great because of what they did. They are great for what they are doing and what they still have to do. It's our way with partners to invest in veterans as not just career-long learners, but as lifelong, cross-generational leaders. So with that in mind, I have a proposal for all of us today, and maybe for the rest of the month. If you meet a veteran, consider replacing the now reflexive "thank you for your service" with "tell me about your service." If you do, you may hear something unexpected. At Smith, for example, you may learn about how our students are redefining business education for veterans. You may learn that for the first time, a full third of our veteran students are now women. That 2/3 of our MBA veterans are now prior enlisted, many first-generation graduate students. You may learn that over the past 3 years, the majority of Smith's service-connected enrollment accommodations have not been for armed deployments overseas, but for uniformed public health officers and National Guard members within and around America's borders. Or you may learn that a growing number of our vets are using their personal time and money, even founding enterprises, to do right by old friends they made serving in Afghanistan and other regions that have struggled to keep peace since they left. Finally, veterans, I have another proposal for you. When you're asked about your service, don't stop in the past. Share how you're using all you have, maybe more than you deserve, to serve today. Talk about how you keep your story straight. Ask about how we can keep it all and always about America's next generation. And let's find ways to discuss more about how to prepare to lead as veterans through the very last day of this life. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Your humility is admirable. Your service, even more so. And thank you for telling us about your service. What I do know for sure is that you have your story right, and you are using it well. And I do know your father is very proud. So are we. So let us continue as we honor and remember. To those veterans who have served in the past and are now University of Maryland students, faculty, staff, and alumni, we are very thankful for the rich lives and important points of view you share with us. Please continue to tell your story. To those of you who currently are in the military, you represent daily reminders to your fellow Terps of duty, dedication, and discipline. You bring valuable experiences and perspectives to the entire university community. Let us give another round of applause to both of our veteran speakers today and to all the veterans and military personnel associated with the University of Maryland. May we continue to honor. And now, let us remember. I ask sophomore Christina Polnulo to come forward, representing the Humble Walk Lutheran Campus Ministry. Christina will light the honor candle and help us remember all UMD veterans, including those no longer with us.
We offer abundant thanks for the University of Maryland alumni veterans who have served our nation in the past. Also, we honor UMD alumni who currently serve in the armed forces: Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Navy, Space Force, and the Reserves. As we light this candle, we pay tribute to the UMD men and women who at present defend our freedoms around the world. All of these individuals stand behind the colors in our nation's flag, red, white, and blue. But University of Maryland alumni serving in the military also holds dear other colors: red, gold, white, and black. In this very chapel today are men and women who have served, are currently serving, or intend to serve in the military. Let us take a moment now to turn to a nearby neighbor in your pew and talk to an individual about their service or intended service in the armed forces. If your pew neighbor is not in the military or a veteran, ask that individual about the military service of a relative or friend in their lives. Be sure to share your own story as well. Let us come back together. We extend our deepest gratitude to all members of the military who serve our country in times of peril and in times of peace. Let us be inspired anew by their deep well of courage and patriotism.
Christina and I talked about how difficult it was to interrupt the conversation, and we hope that those conversations continue over lunch when this service is over. So we offer abundant thanks for the University of Maryland alumni veterans who have served our nation in the past. Also, we honor UMD alumni who currently served in the armed forces: Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Navy, Space Force, and the Reserves. As we continue to remember Maryland veterans, we will invite our student musical group, Fronde Muzak, who will return to the stage for reflective musical selection, In Flanders Fields. peace and for sharing the gifts of your voice and music with us. It is time to remember UMD veterans who have recently been lost. I call forward undergraduates Andre McGowan, Anicia Porter, Andy Tran, and Tim White. These students are representatives of TERP Vets, our student organization of veterans on campus. The students will be reading aloud the names of 137 UMD veteran alumni who have passed away from October 2022 through September 2023. On the screen, you will see the names of these UMD veterans. Their service to the nation spans decades and covers both periods of war and peace. After the reading, I invite you to reflect on all of the Maryland veterans we have lost as UMD doctoral student Dylan Rye plays taps.
Theodore R. Allen, Tommy S. Armstrong, Richard D. Bagster Collin, Walter Jameson Bell, Arthur E. Biggs, Kenneth Bittinger, Denwood Brian Bloodsworth, Jr., Frederick A. Bonnet, Rodney I. Bowling, Kenneth D. Brody, Raymond Reed Burgess, Donald E. Burkett, Jack D. Burkett, Charles O. Burns, Martin A. Buzas, Ralph E. Campbell, Ellis S. Kaplan, Anthony T. Cardis, E. Neil Carey, Timothy B. Carlin, Herbert L. Shabbat, Thomas W. Chapman, Jr., David E. Cherry, Paul D. Chiaro, Susan T. Clapper, Robert C. Clark, John B. Clausen, George D. Connor, Thomas D. Conrad, Jr., William H. Cowie, Jr., Douglas E. Custer, Gregory D. Custer, Donald E. Day, Herbert F. Day, Thomas C. Day, Robert C. Dubrule, Marcus Farbenblom, John M. Ferguson, Jr., John E. Fisher III, Alfred Fogelman, Terry T. Gladfelter, James E. Goldsmith, Jr., Edward G. Grace, Jr., Eugene G. Grace, Jr.
Charles P. Greer, Donald L. Griffin II, Kumsun Hall, Gordon L. Hammond, Kevin K. Hartner, Donald E. Hemmick, Howard J. Hickman, Elmer E. Horsey, Gordon A. Hull, Bernard Hyatt, C. R. Iannacone, Gary R. Imlay, Lawrence S. Ireland, Joseph E. Jeffs, Isaac Jenkins, Randolph G. Johnson, Wayne R. Johnson, Donald R. Judge, Kevin R. Kearns, Kevin T. Kelty, Ralph C. Kemp, Terry V. Kimmel, Nicholas Kresovich Jr., Emmons O'Larson Jr., Earl J. Lavoie, Tito R. Leon, Edward A. Livingston, Eugene L. Long, John W. McGowan, James S. McKinsey, Jr., Hugh A. Malone III, John B. Maloney, Jr., Richard H. Marshall, Joe Ellen Mason Foley, Richard K. Matlick, Bruce R. Meadows, James E. Morley, Charles L. Moriels, Wanda G. Mosier, Joshua S. Neves, Jack A. Newkirk, John R. Norville, Patrick F. O'Connor, Mark A. O'Hara, Jr., Donald S. Orkund, Philip J. O'Toole, Robert A. Park, Kenneth D. Pennington, Bruce C. Phillips, Marshall Pittman, Alan R. Plitt.
Adrian S. Probst, Jr., Donald S. Orkund, Herbert Rathner, William J. Raymond, J. Emery Reed, William F. Reisner, Wilson T. Renwick, John A. Reuter, Stuart J. Robinson, Donald L. Rowe, Roger A. Romack, Virginia Roundsavel, Robert C. Ruark, Sheldon A. Rubin, Malcolm L. Sarna, Walter E. Shayett, Robert B. Scott, Michael K. Shuck, John D. Schuman, Raymond H. Siegel, David Neal Silk, Alfred H. Smith, Jr., Hubert N. Sparks, Herbert Stant, Murray R. Stein, William F. Stein, Vernon E. Stinson, Harry A. Susini, Leonard A. Tabor, B. Eugene Taylor, George A. Terrell, Edmund Tremont, Harry L. Van Trees, William Walquist, Thomas A. Ward, Jack B. Watson, Ernest J. Weiss, Jr., Charles E. White, Lynn H. Widener, Michael J. Wigglesworth, Clyde Wolfrey, Daniel Alphonse Yankowski, Louis L. Zagarino, Ted Zahn. Ted Zaleski, Jr.
Thank you, Dylan and Terps vets. You can have a seat now. Thank you, Dylan and Terps vets. Today we have come together to honor the contributions and sacrifices of University of Maryland veterans and servicemen and women. On behalf of the entire campus community, let me say that we commend you for your contributions to our nation. We give thanks and we want to hear your stories. In addition, we honor family members and friends who support veterans in this journey. Let us give another round of applause for all of our military veterans and family members who have participated in their journeys. The formal part of our program will conclude with a benediction by Noor Ben Latefa, representing the Muslim Students Association. The benediction will be followed by the playing of When the Battle is Over by bagpiper and UMD alumna Olivia Corcoran. Will the audience please rise? I ask you to remain in place until the honor guard retrieves the colors and begins the procession. Our audience from the front rows to the back rows will continue in the procession. The ushers will help to direct the first rows and others will follow. We do hope that you will join us for lunch, which because of the rain will be set up in the garden chapel right behind us. So we will walk down the aisle and back up on the sides to enjoy lunch together. During lunch, if the rain allows, please take the time to walk the meditative labyrinth in honor of a veteran, past or present. A guide will be present to offer instructions if needed. Also, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. today, our ROTC cadets will be holding a vigil in front of the chapel in honor of lost veterans. We thank all of you for taking part in today's Veterans Recognition Service. I know that I speak for all of us when I say we have a deep well of gratitude for our veterans called to serve in such deep and meaningful ways.
In the name of God, I want to start with a beautiful Islamic saying in the Arabic language that goes, "La yashkurullahu man la yashkurun nas." Whoever does not thank people does not thank God. This is our opportunity to thank, honor, and remember our veterans for their dedication and their service to our country. They strive and struggle for the nation that we share, and it's with their help that we stand strong. Their sacrifice and their service are the pillars, that our country is built upon. There's so much they put into their work, physically with their bodies, spiritually with their souls, mentally with their emotions and their strong mentality. It's their families that stand behind them as well. We want to praise our veterans today and their loved ones who wait for them at home. It's a tribute to their hard work and for praying for their safety and safe return. There's a heavy toll that duty levies on these veterans and their loved ones, and we want to thank them for that today and every day. At the sight of our Terrapin Strong veterans, we are reminded of one of our most valuable UMD attributes, fearlessness. We are the school of fearless ideas, the kind we fight to discover and the kind that we fight to protect. It is my personal conviction that the individual is neither entirely a lover nor entirely a fighter, but rather both the same in the same flight of thought. We fight for the ideas, places, and the people that we love, and we love to fight for them. I want our parting gift today to be a call to consistent reflection upon the righteousness of the causes that we choose to further. May we always be a people of fighting for the right cause, of fighting for morality and constructive pursuits, of fighting to serve others. May we be a people who wisely know when to fight and when to let go. At times, life will bring us instances of bearing arms, and we will gear up. Other times, the only arms we need are the ones we use to embrace one another. We must strive to understand one another. We are created in our beautiful diversity so that we may learn from each other. As my mentor and favorite person, Imam Tarif, taught me, to truly serve a people well, you must love them, and to love a people well, you must know them. So let today be the day that we come to know one another. With our minds as tools of justice and our hearts as bringers of peace, let us unite in the pursuit of shared nobility and tranquility in the world. As we are gathered here today, may we remember our veterans past and anticipate UMD generations' futures as our mission becomes to sustain a peaceful world. I conclude with thanking our veterans, our beloved audience, and a prayer for peace, love, and humanity to thrive beautifully forever in America and from America throughout the world. Amen.
Colors. March. Post. 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 Colors. Colors turn. Hearts.